I would like to now invite Aditi De from Speech and Hearing Institute and Research Center to lead the first section of our webinar on tactics for project management, embracing strength and challenges. Over to you, Aditi.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everybody is fine in amidst of in such uncertainty. Hope everybody is with fine health. So today I've been given this opportunity to say about project management. So I'll start today. So let me start. When I just look at a blank Microsoft Word document, I feel like panicking. There are so many directions I can go with my writing, and there are so many words I have to pack into an article by the end of the day. Luckily, I mitigate this with careful research and planning. So by the time I go to write, I am ready. Putting our thoughts together with what we want from our initiatives and projects is what sets the stepping stones of inspiration. And inspiration is what guides us to achieve successful and sustainable projects. Managing projects such manpower, deliverables, etc. is an art which can be perceived over years of experience in management principles and concepts. My name is Aditi De. I am on the team of Speech and Hearing Institute and Research Center. Just like every one of us present here, managing projects, initiatives, activities, and attaining positive outputs and result is what we do on day-to-day basis. I feel honored to be present on this platform today and would like to share my heartiest gratitude to ConnectFor. This is a wonderful opportunity of cross-learning through our ideas and experiences as I walk through the presentation. The objective of this presentation today is to create an opportunity to overcome the barriers of the external factors and continue to get dedicated outputs to our projects. So let's begin with the presentation. But so before beginning, getting into the presentation, I would like anyone out here can say what comes first in your mind when you hear the word project management. Any two words. You can unmute if the admin allows, or you can share it in the the chat box. So if anybody can just say what comes first about project management. I can see it's Shyam Sundar, human resources training and hiring. Anybody else? Anybody else? Quick, just anything that comes.
You can unmute yourself and see if you have something specific in your mind. Yeah.
Great. I'm getting a good response. Absolutely. So I really appreciate the response, and it is really wonderful. So once we concise all the words that has all have mentioned, yes, all the words together, it would sum up to something which is present in the slide, which I'll present before you. And I would request my admin team, if you can
Aditi, you are on mute.
I hope it's okay.
Yes, Sadhna, from beginning, right.
Arnav, just move on to first slide, please.
Yes, Arnav, can you click on that particular icon? Yeah. From beginning, at the top of the screen, slideshow menu. At the top of your screen on the left-hand corner, below the red file button, there's an option that says from beginning, right? Could you please click on that?
The first option from beginning. Go to your left and there is a first option from beginning.
The slideshow option.
The first from beginning, yeah.
From beginning. File and the below one, from beginning.
Yeah, yes. Click here. Yes, thank you. Yes, click on that.
Click on a click
Yeah.
from beginning. I don't, yes, no. Go back. Anna, please go back. Anna, from for the
Go to the
first, please
first
go move
slide.
to the first slide. Anna, we are, yes. Yes, thank you, Anna. Thank you. So we have the first slide where it speaks about project management. So as everyone said, project management provides a structure and the control of the project environment. So the agreed activities will produce the right products or services to meet the customers' expectations. I hope everybody agree with it, whoever manages the projects. And these are basically very temporary structures because we need to plan. We need to plan according the objective, and we have to plan the objectives, we have to plan the budgets, we have to plan the strategies, everything according to the project. So project is always a temporary thing. I hope I'm audible. So
Yes,
projects are temporary structures which must be properly managed and controlled in order to meet the stated objectives. So why this project management is required? So the purpose is the purpose of a project is it should be having a life cycle. I mean, we are going to plan, say how many years this project is going to run, what is going to be the budget for the every year, I mean the per year budget, what's going to be the action plan, what is going to be the strategy of each year planning. So this is how a project basically runs. So project has a life cycle, definitely it has a life cycle, and it has underpinned by a plan, which is the path and sequence through the various activities defined to produce its products. So whatever we are planning, whatever we want to attain, what we are aim for. So this is what a project basically, I mean the management basically comprises. So project management is a controlled implementation of the project plan under the direction of the organization's senior management. So definitely why senior management I have specified, because maybe a lot of experience, we do plan a lot of things, but sometimes say in 2020 this pandemic came, we had a lot of projects in hands, but with the certain change in the condition of the nation, with the condition of the worldwide condition, we had to change the strategy, we had to change the how the resources are going to work, how we are going to fulfill the target, because we had planned that it's going to be, we are going to work in some other way. So we have to change the whole strategy because of this pandemic. So this is why I'm saying this is senior management, because then that is the point where the experience comes, and it's going to help out to plan those uncertainties, those what is going to happen next if the resources are not able to turn up. So this is what basically I wanted to mean. Traditionally, a successful project is one that has delivered its products or services according to the project plan, meeting overall business objectives. I hope I have tried to explain the purpose. I hope everybody is clear. If anybody have any question, you can please put in the chat box. Anna, can you move on to the second slide, please? Yes. So an investment of resources with a specific objective. So any company, they have a lot of it, and the management is what? The management is the art of planning, directing, organizing, controlling, and evaluating. So project management at a whole involves planning, organizing, and managing resources to achieve project goals and objectives. And so it is basically a one-time job that has defined a starting and an ending date, and a clearly specified objectives, scope of work to be performed, a predefined budget, and usually temporary organization that is dismantled. This team or the project, once it is over, this organization gets dismantled once it gets over, once it attains the objectives. I hope.
Sorry, everyone, we are facing some technical issue. Aditi will be back in some time. Yeah, thank you. Aditi, are you there?
Yes, this was a network issue, and
yeah.
Can you move on to the next slide, please?
Off. Aditi, you can keep your camera off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
you.
Because of the weather, I said earlier.
Thank you.
Now, characteristics of projects. So what are projects characteristics is, as it is shown in the slide, specific and clear objectives concerning time, budget, and quality. Then a temporary organization run by teams that are specifically assembled. It requires funds to make the project successful, operates under tight schedule of time scale, because definitely
Aditi, you are on mute. Aditi, your voice is breaking.
Am I audible?
Yeah, it's better now. Please continue.
Now it's audible. I'm sorry.
Yes, it's much better now. Please continue.
So, yes. Time frame in order to we need to complete the project by certain months, by or certain year. So we need to focus on that. And it should operate under tight schedule, as I said, comprises collaborating groups and encourages harmony. Definitely when a project happens, it can be a Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you, Aditi.
So comprises of collaborating groups and encourages harmony. So because sometimes the projects are works on a collaborative process, like we 2 or 3 organization collaborates. Sometimes it's only a organization project. So it's all about that. Again, the next point is focuses on the issues of risk and uncertainty. That is the risk. Definitely, there is always a risk with a project, because that is also something we don't know what is going to happen. Suppose if we consider this pandemic, because we had a project which was supposed to be completed in last May, but due to the pandemic, we had to we have completely changed our strategies and everything. We didn't know that will this project will be successful or not, because since we had to randomly change the plan. So this risk and uncertainty is always there. It can come any time it can come. So a project manager or the team should be always be prepared for this, so that if any risk or uncertainty comes, at least they can support the project somehow, so in order to complete it. And the clients do not receive full benefit until the project is completed. So whoever the beneficiaries or whoever the clients are, unless the projects completes, definitely they don't get the full benefit. So I would request Arnab to move on to the next slide. Yes, thank you, Arnab. So I'm continue the same thing, that because the projects are unique and they have certain degree of risk, and the company's organization performing projects will definitely subdivide the projects into several project phases. So the project phases are, our concept and initiation phase, design and development phase, implementation phase, commissioning and handover phase, or termination. I hope everybody can see these 4 main phases. Concept and initiation phase, design and development phase, implementation phase, and commissioning and handover phase or termination. So I'll now briefly explain this 4 phases of a project. Anna, please move on to the next slide. Yes. So as I said, the concept of initiation phase, that when a project starts, so establishing the need or the opportunity. So we need to first analyze, or we need to understand why this project is going to start. What is the opportunity? What is the need for this project? Why we are going to do it? Who are going to be our beneficiaries? Who are going to be our clients? What kind of facilities we are going to provide them? So these are basically first thing that comes for which a project should be initiated. So the options and alternatives are also considered. Suppose if this option doesn't work, what is the other option that is there which is going to work for this project? So we need to plan for that also. So feasibility for the best options are evaluated. So any project, any organization always follows minimum cost concept, because we need to do it with a minimum cost, so that that is main strategy or main objective of any project manager or any organization or is. So acceptance of the project moves to next phase. If these things are considered, now we are going to move on to the next phase. That is, after all these factors are considered, we are going to move on to the design and development phase. We are going to now design and development the project. So preferred options are now designed and developed in details with all the associated plannings of schedules, procurement, resources, and budget. So to whom we are going to provide the services, who are going to be our resources, what are the resources are going to, the action plan, how they are going to work, what is going to be the strategies. This phase actually gives this guideline and also the feasibility study. Now we move on to the next phase. After the strategies and the action plans are designed, we go to the implementation phase. The implementation of the project as per the baseline plan. We have to do a proper baseline survey. We have to make a proper documentation, and be it technical, be it financial, everything has to be developed, and changes may be made to the original baseline plan and manuals as problem arise or better information is forthcoming. Because this baseline survey will definitely the most important thing, because that will help us to attain our goal. Because if any mistake is done at the baseline, the whole project is going to give a wrong result and we cannot attain the objective. So now we move on to the last phase, that is the commissioning and the handover phase. That is the termination. The project is being finished and will be terminated, and that is the last phase, and handed over to the beneficiaries or handed over to the who have funded us. This is the last phase. So now I move quickly to the next slide. Anna, please move on to the next slide. So basically that was the diagrammatic representation, and Arnav, I would request to, I hope everybody, yes. So I would want to show you this graph. That is, the 4 phases have been graphically presented. The level of effort that starts from the concept, it usually keeps on rising. It's again rises in the designing and the development phase. And when it after crossing this phase, still the level of effort rises in the implementation phase. But slowly, many problems comes, many factors come, resources, sometimes doesn't turn, they doesn't click. Sometimes there is a failure in many strategies, and the rate of effort then from the 3rd phase starts to decline. I hope everybody can see the graph, that the pink see the rate of effort actually declines. Though the organization is always trying to give the best level, best effort, so the blue line is always at an upward moving curve, but the actual thing is actually the rate of effort gradually it decreases, and when it reaches the last phase, that is the termination phase, it actually decreases. But definitely after all the hindrance, after all the trial and error strategies, ultimately the projects attains its objectives. So definitely the hard work pays. Now we move on to the next slide, Arnab.
Aditi, you are on mute.
Sorry. Now I'm going to talk about the characteristics of a project. So laying out the actual jobs of the project in the time order in which they have to be performed. So definitely a time frame has to be there, that within this time, or suppose suppose if I plan it a day wise, suppose this resource A is going to work for 2 hours, like the way I have presented in the diagram below, or resource B is going to work for 4 hours. This is basically a day-to-day plan or a weekly plan, because this thing is very much needed in order to make a project very successful. Apart from this, we need to make a proper the schedule chart. That is, the schedule network analysis is basically the graphical presentation of how the sequence, activity, and the time that is basically works together in order to finish each one. It basically used to identify early and late start dates. Suppose, for example, we plan, suppose a resource was supposed given a target to finish a work about a target in a week for say 7 hours or 8 hours, but because of lack of any problem out with that resource, maybe he is not able to complete his target. Then how can we manage that lap that is created? So this is how we make random plans in order to make this project, to complete the project on time. So we have to, the project managers need to work on those schedule network analysis. I hope I'm clear. So Arnab, can I move on to the, can I please you, yes. So now another important characteristics of project is micro level planning. What is this micro level planning? The micro level planning enables the community to plan and implement projects. That is basically for whom we are working. And suppose an organization plans something according to the resources they have allocated, but for whom we are going to work, who our target beneficiaries are. So that community may not give the response the way we actually plan. So we need to plan on that also. That is local people contribution, not only in the content, because sometimes the project managers works with the team on the strategies that we are going to cover this thing or in that area within this months or this days. But somehow the community did not support us, or the community could not, the community could not follow the structures. So basically we need to have an adequate framework so that the local people participation, their problems are addressed. We can define solutions, we can define the partnership, everything in that micro level planning. I hope you can go through the slide, and all the importance of the MLP is written over there. So develop responsibility of community towards development, generate feeling of ownness, generate feeling of ownness and linkage with plan in the community people, share success and failure of the project, develop capability of people by involving in the process, provide transparency in the plan or the project, aware people about their role and importance, and to understand and acknowledge difficulties related to plan and projects. Now please move on to the next slide. So basically this characteristics of project, which we basically called, that is the way project is planned, that is the WBS, that is work home, basically how the project is divided. I hope this is basically the segregation of different projects that we work. So suppose I take an example of a house. Just a house is a project where we have three, say, sections, that is civil, plumbing, and electrical. So a civil section have some objectives, I mean some things to address. Plumbing section has some things to address. Electrical section has some things to address. So how all the projects is like this, segregated in these categories according to their own need. So I ask Arnab to move to the next slide. Yes. So the most reason why this projects fails during the crisis, that is lack of preparation. If a project, a team, or a organization is not prepared properly with the beginning, so we need to have a clear picture of whatever we are doing. So we need to plan the thing. We cannot have inadequate documentation and tracking. We should be having a proper documentation. Definitely, apart from all these things, there should be a proper leader who can guide the project, because that counts experience, that counts the skills, and definitely failure to define parameters. If somehow any failure comes, that should be the team should, or the leader should have the capability in order to get the project back to track. I would ask Arnab to move to the next slide. Yes, so definitely, like leadership is a concern. Definitely a project manager should be experienced enough in order to handling projects, because that experience, that counts a lot. Not only experience, I would say the skill is also required in order to manage projects at any situation, any odd situation, or any situation a project manager should be handling the project. So definitely inaccurate cost estimates, if any kind of wrong budget goes, that also affects the project during this uncertainty. So projects budget should be done very clearly, and by addressing all the needs. A little communication at every level of management, and definitely communication is a very, very that is the main key word. Main key skill when a project runs successfully, because there should be a proper communication between the upper management and the resource and the lower management, and also the and also the community for whom we are working. Total communication should be working. They should work hand in hand. And lack of resource planning, definitely proper strategies, proper action plans, everything is required to make the project successful. So any kind of action plans can be on a trial and error method, because sometimes we plan for something but it doesn't work. So randomly we should be capable enough to go for another, because we should be having a plan A, plan B, plan C, so that if any of the plan doesn't work, we can move on to the next plan. So Anna, please move on to the next slide. Yes, so definitely there are always risk signs that while the project runs, the manager should be and the team should be capable enough to understand if any risk come, because the warning signs comes, so that they can plan the change, or they can move to one plan to another in order to get the smooth running of the project. Aishwarya, I will definitely share this video link with you later on, so that everybody can have a proper view of the project management, whatever I have planned for. Arnab, please move on to the next slide. Yes, so the main thing that we are here today, that is if something uncertainty, how we can get back the project on track. So definitely determine why your project go off the track. So you need to identify those problems, why your project is running out of track. You need to identify each and every problems and have to address that, so that if any loopholes again it is there, then again the problem, the project can go off track. So you need to identify each and every problem. I am not saying that problem won't come. It is going to come, but the organization and the team leader should be capable to get the project on track. So recapitulate your key drivers, identify people who stand to benefit your project. So you need to, consider those people who originally wanted your project to be performed, as well as others who have emerged since the project began. So you need to recapitulate your key drivers. So I hope now the next slide, please, Arnab, move on to the next slide. Actually, it's a very huge topic, and please, Arnab, next slide. Yes, develop a risk management plan. Project should be revised. The project should always get revised, because as I said, there is always a plan A, plan B, plan C. Because if sometimes while working, we see that this additional things should be included in the project. Maybe that was not considered while we planned the project. That should be considered, and again the action plan should be changed. We need to sit with the experts. We need to sit with the people who we are going to collaborate, we are working for. We have to change the plan accordingly, according to the need. Definitely, if sometimes we see the resources are not performing well, maybe we need somebody else who with a better skill. We need to do that also. If sometimes there is a lack of fund, we need to see other ventures where we can support the project. So basically, identify, analyze, and plan to minimize the impact of those risks. For the risk, you should decide to address proactively the following things. That is, try to minimize the chances that they will occur, and develop contingency plans in case they do occur. Now, I would ask you to move on to the next slide. Closely monitor and control performance of the remainder of the project. So you should be ensuring that the project should be there should be a frequently track of the performance of the resources, and also we should see the for whom the project is being the function, or we are working for, we can meet their needs or not, or we should be promptly deal with all the whatever problems that come. We should be considering each and every problem during the functioning. Now the next slide, Anna. So I end up with the my presentation. I hope this is a very, very vast topic, and this is just, few points I could highlight. It's really it's a big topic. So I hope I can give some points, some help, or some overview on this. If thank you. And in this time, I could not have anything more to say about this. I hope this is all I can do.
Thank you so much, Aditi. The
I'm so
presentation
sorry
was
for the
really
network
good.
issues. I'm so sorry for this, because of this bad weather. I informed you this has happened. So I'm very sorry, and I'm very sorry that I have to quickly present this. So please.
No problem, Aditi. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for sharing the broad overview about project management. Now, I would like to invite Kanika to lead the final section on project management objective and key result OKR concept for goal setting and how you can use them to achieve superlative performance. Over to you, Kanika.
Thank you, Aishwarya. So thank you, Aditi. Thank you, Aishwarya, for taking us through the first part of the section, providing a broad overview. So in the second part of the section today in the webinar, what I want to do is take a little bit step back as in the project management. Like the first step, as Aditi also mentioned, like different phases of project management. The first is identifying what are the key outcomes or the key things which we want to achieve towards. Which helps us to get then our activities, our templates in place. So getting that broader objective and getting that broader outcomes which you want to work towards is a very important task, right? So I quickly share my screen to take you all through some of the key aspects. Yeah, So OKR is one such framework which I mentioned to set goals, right? What we want to work towards, what is our larger goal setting and how do we set our goals towards, right? So OKRs is O stands for objective and KR is key results. So the objective tells us what do we want to do. So what is that goal which we want to work towards? So objectives are usually very significant statements, very inspirational and motivational statements. And these are very action oriented as well. So objective is a certain goal which we want to achieve in a certain timeline. So example can be universal access of anti-HIV drugs, right? So that's a very aspirational statement to work towards. So the objective provides us a direction we want to work towards and are very action oriented. Whereas key results are the core of OKRs, helps us to measure if we are in the right direction for those objectives or not, right? So the key result is very specific, time bound, they are very aggressive and yet realistic. They are measurable and quantifiable. So if usually key results have a number in it that we can measure against our progress, right? So the objective tells us what, the key results tells us, are we in the right direction to achieve that objective? So these are the indicators which help us to measure the progress for it. So in brief, this is the OKR, the objective and key result framework, which I want to talk to you about today in helping to set goals for the organization. Because if what you want to achieve becomes clear, then project management is about more templatizing our approach for it, right? So this is objective and key results. So before I move next, like I want to spend a little bit time of telling you like what's the history of OKRs, why we are talking about it all of a sudden today, right? So OKRs are started by Andy Grove, who was the CEO of Intel in 1970s, and he based OKRs on MBO, which was management by objectives, which was outlined by Peter Drucker, who is a management executive guru, right? And Andy Grove, as a leader, was very execution focused, very action oriented. So what he did was took those MBO approach and made them into OKRs. He used to believe that you have all the strategies in the world. If they cannot be executed on the ground, these are just ideas hanging in the air, right? So he wanted everything to be execution biased, everything should be action oriented. And hence these OKRs not only just helps us to set goals for the organizations, they are very useful for organization in executing better because they bring that clarity that what the organization wants to work towards, what a team wants to work towards, and what at individual level I want to work towards. So they bring that clarity in the execution as well, right? So this was the history in 1970s. Again, the question comes in, why are we talking about it today, right? It happened in 1970s by a CEO, right? So what happened was this guy came in, John Doerr. So he used to work with Andy Grove and in a VC firm. So he took this OKR framework to all the portfolio organizations. And one of those portfolio organizations you all might know about was Google, right? Where he introduced the OKR framework to Larry and Sergey. That this is an OKR framework to set an objectives and key results. And those two guys ran with it. They were completely enamored by the whole OKR framework. And in 90s, when they took this framework, they used to spend every quarter 1 week reviewing everybody's OKR, right? And of course, that was initial years of Google when they could do that. So, and they contributed their growth in Google to OKRs, that because that helped us to bring clarity on what we want to work, so much focus and commitment in what we want to do. So this framework helped them and they held responsible for their 10x growth to the OKR framework, right? And very leading organizations in social sector, we are seeing organizations adopting this approach on OKR. And at Sattva Consulting, we have worked with many of the organizations in adopting this approach and setting this, what are the goal setting exercise can be at an organizational level, at a functional team level, and as well as an individual level of that functional team. So that's how a brief history on how OKRs came in and why we are talking about it and why it's a big phenomenon now, right? So that's how it's a brief history on the background of it. So this was one of the early OKRs that John Doerr set in 70s, that he wanted to demonstrate that 8080, which is an Intel chip that time, is a superior performing than a Motorola one. And he laid out these as the key results, that I want to deliver 5 benchmarks, develop a demo, call on 3 customers to prove that it's better. So very specific key results, if you see, like it helps us to measure, are we in the right direction to show it's a superior performance than the other one, right? So that's how he laid it out. And those were the times where there were no internet, intranet, which we have today. So what he did was took a printout of this and actually put it outside his door, that everybody in the organization can see what I'm working towards day in and out. So that kind of level of transparency was there, right? So why OKRs? Like why organizations should use OKRs is something also which I want to focus on. So first is focus and commit, right? So OKRs is not a long laundry list of goals I want to achieve over the years. These are very few, max 3 objectives in a year, and for each objective 1 to 2, 3 key results, right? So that's that much focus it brings in, that I have to work only on 3 things in the year to improve on. Right? So it brings that focus and commitment, what you're trying to do. So the top 5 objectives, top 3 to 5 objectives, if we achieve them, nothing else matters. If you're not able to do it, doesn't matter our progress or sales or the organization, because the top 3 which we laid out were so crucial and so important that our whole energy is focused towards that, right? So that is focus and commit. These why OKRs is, I just want to introduce like 4 superpowers of OKRs, which helps us to say that why organizations should use OKRs, right? So second is align and connect. So as in different organizations, and especially in social sector, I think we work with different teams, different functions, and different geographies to deliver on that larger outcome on the ground, right? So it helps us to ensure that transparency and enables that collaboration, which is teams to deliver on the outcome, right? So that's how it brings in alignment and connectedness, which is required. The third is the stretch for amazing, right? There's a research which suggests actually that if we set hard goals for ourselves, we are more probable to achieve in absolute terms more than if we would have set a softer goals for ourselves. So it helps us to stretch ourselves for that amazing, right? It helps us to do more because we have set that goal for ourselves on paper and we want to achieve it, right? So it helps us to stretch the boundaries we can work with. And the last is track for accountability. I think this really helps in organizations. Once we have put our name against any target or any other objective, it helps to bring that accountability that, okay, if I've set my target for 4 proposals and I'm at 2, so that accountability is driven in the organization, right? So these are the 4 superpowers which I see why OKRs are important and should be leveraged in the organization, because it helps us to bring that commitment and that alignment between the teams. It helps us to do more, achieve more, and it in the end helps us all of us accountable for the work which we are doing, right? So certain examples which I want to lay down to share more how actual OKRs kind of look like. So one is, you see here, is achieving that record sales of funds for the program, right? So some of the key results for it can be like supporting and closing on 3 sales proposal per quarter. Like that can be key results, which can be measurable as well. And it tells me a very specific time bound I am, that in per quarter, I need to achieve this, the target. The second can be a conversion ratio, like 50% proposals I work on, I need to convert them, right? And participate in 3 sales conversations per quarter. I need to engage on these many conversations. So these are very specific key results, which helps us to show that I am in the right direction to achieve a record sales, right? So these are some of the key results which outline for this perspective. Second example, which we see, is more from a skilling organization who ensures their students are placed in different companies. So the objective here is ensuring a strong employer partnership is there, right? Which is aspirational, which is little, I would say, significant, that how do we do this now? A strong employer partnership is very broad, but the key results are very thoughtful here. So we need to ensure that students convert from internships to placements. That will ensure that my partnerships is going very strong. With feedback received from employers should be 4 on 5, which I received from the employers. That will ensure that my employer partnership is strong, right? So these are the key results, which again help us to see that we are in the right direction to get that strong employer partnerships, right? And similarly, the third example is on a strong market presence, which many nonprofits and all of the organizations wants to create for themselves, right? But market presence can be different for different everybody, but what we need to do to achieve that, right? What means and levers I'm going to pull to achieve that. So I'll base a lot of thought leadership articles. I maybe host webinar or a podcast to ensure that my expertise and knowledge from the ground is shared with everybody. I'll make sure that my team is consolidating all the learnings and publishing it on social media channels to show that what impact and learnings on the ground are there, right? So these are some of the specific key results which are laid out here, and then translates into at organizational level, team level, and a functional level as well, right? So these are some of the examples of OKRs. Yeah. So as I mentioned, like key result is in a way core of OKRs, largely the meat of OKRs. So key results can be of two types, right? It can be a milestone based and an outcome based, right? So if you see example of John Doe's OKRs, which was develop 5 benchmarks, develop a demo, so and developing sales training material for the field force. So some are milestone based as well, that I need to develop a demo, right? What will happen after it is something else, but I need to develop a demo as a first step, which is more milestone based or key result is set. Whereas the outcome based is I need to call up 3 customers to prove that the material which I've created is working. So your key results can be of 2 types. The steps to achieve that and the larger outcome itself, right? So key results can be of 2 types, and there can be of 4 parameters in terms of setting key results. One can be quantity, like I will work on 5 proposals, right? Quality can be the first draft of the report which I create gets minimum iterations or is accepted by the client, right? The cost and profits can be my minimum gross margin for each of the project is 20%, 30%, right? So it can be cost profit as well. And the last list can be time as well, that per quarter I need to publish 2 articles, right? So these can be some of the ways you can set your key results for, right? And so what I've done is also based on my experience of working with a lot of nonprofits in the ecosystem on setting the OKRs for them. I've laid out what areas OKRs are usually set in the organization. So some of the illustrative areas which I want to share, which might be relevant for your organization, for your team, and even for yourself. Like there are people in Satwa who set their individual OKRs around hobby they want to work towards, the fitness they want to achieve, the learning and development they want to attain, right? So these are some of the areas which are set at organizational level, then functional level, and then individual level as well. So one area is business, right? How much revenue we want to raise, how much funds we want to raise is one area where OKRs are usually covered. The second is delivery, like ensuring that delivery excellence is achieved in my programs. The timeline which we have analyzed and attained and aligned on, we are achieving that. The second is what's the CSS, like what the customer satisfaction score is. Are the beneficiaries happy on the ground? Are the funders happy with the program which has been implemented? So how do we ensure there's a good and strong delivery on the ground? Third area which is usually covered is impact, like what is the larger impact I'm able to create? What is that learning and knowledge which has enabled in the ground as well as with the team members? The fourth area is market engagement. One example which we discussed was how do we establish that market presence in the ecosystem. So that is one area where nonprofits set OKRs for. Another is people. I think this is in the last 2 years, we have set organizations prioritizing this area in their OKRs. That how do we ensure that learning and development is a top priority? How do we ensure people are growing in their trajectory? And how do we ensure that the people happiness is there? Like there have been frameworks which have been developed to measure people happiness within the organization. So like Satwa, as an example, I can share that we every year set OKRs for people happiness. There's a score which a people happiness framework gets. So 4.8 out of this is something as a target we set for ourselves. That's an objective, right? That we want to ensure everybody in Satwa is happy. And we have a definition for that happiness, that work-life balance is there. What are the measures we have to take to ensure that we achieve that objective, right? And the last one is the sixth one, which is any initiatives or any particular area where organization is working towards, right? So these are the 6 areas in my experience which I've seen nonprofits basing their OKRs largely on. And certain things to keep in mind while setting OKRs as well, that we can keep our OKRs quarterly or annually, depending on the visibility we have. We can start with quarterly one and can revisit, course correct it, and then set another for quarter. So you can do it quarterly, annually. Keeping your OKRs few and high priority. That's what I mentioned. 3 objectives, 2 to 3 key results for each objective. That's the max we want. You should be able to take a printout of that small thing and able to stick it on a table. Like, that's how small we want, but very, very high focus, that this is what something I want to work on. Nothing else I'm able to achieve, it's fine. But if I'm able to achieve this, that's a success for me, right? And the third is aligning our OKRs to our functional team or organizational OKRs as well, right? So one thing to keep in mind here is OKRs always align, right? They never cascade. So if organization, I suppose, set their OKR that I want to reach 1 million students in Haryana, right, for this program. So that's organizational OKRs. So team OKRs for that will be that maybe I need to do active mobilization exercise so I'm able to reach 1 million students in Haryana, right? So it won't be that if organization OKR is 1 million, the team's OKR becomes 1 million and field team members' OKR is also 1 million. So that's cascading, like whatever organization setting, it's coming down to the people and they are doing it. So it always aligns. To achieve that, what do I need to do? Now, if I have to have active mobilization, then what do I have to do, right? So that's how you break it and you align with the larger function and organizational OKRs. And some best practices also I want to share to keep in mind. OKRs are best kept transparent, right? It allows for that accountability. It allows for that collaboration. If everybody's in an organization knows what are my top priorities and what are your top priorities. If our priorities match, we will work towards together and achieve it, right? So OKRs are a lot of time interdependent in functions as well. That marketing sets that we should get good knowledge team to get a content, knowledge team gets that, oh, the implementation team should do this and get me that. So a lot of OKRs are dependent. So it's best to keep it transparent so everybody has access to each other's OKRs, right, in the organization. Second is defining level of achievement for each objective. It might not be possible to do it for all the objectives, but usually this conversation comes in when you do the annual review of things, like how much I've been able to achieve. That sometimes managers do come up and say that, I think the person achieved the objective, but I'm not sure I have exceeded expectations in achieving that objective or not, right? So making sure that if I do it this way, it means I'm meeting the expectation. If I do this way, then it's exceeding expectation of that objective. So defining that for certain objectives is also crucial. And the third, I think it's the most important one, is the how approach. The way I explained to you that every time we need to ask, okay, to achieve this, how will I achieve this? And then drilling it down. Okay, to do this, what will I need to do? How will I do it? And then drilling it down. So asking yourself how every time will give you the real thing which you want to work towards, right? So it's Satwa, like we do this value mapping exercise in which we start with that, okay, I need to do more sales, right? So that's an example I'm taking. So to do more sales, then okay, how will I do it? Maybe I can go to my existing customers, maybe I can get to new customers, or maybe I get to my old customers, right? So that's way. Okay, now how to get to that? Breaking again how for each of those things, right? That's very important because that will give you that very important areas you want to work towards. And the fourth one is dare to fail, right? If you're setting 3 objectives for yourself, set that one objective to be a moonshot, which is seems impossible to achieve. But in the end, the team will be so inspired and motivated with that it brings in more rigor in the approach will you work in. So have that one moonshot which you want to work towards, and rest are rooftops. Rooftops are more like your roles and responsibilities which you do day to day, that how do you do better on those. Whereas moonshot seems like unbelievable. Your team should say that ye to ho hi nahi sakta hai. But we should have that one objective to work towards, right? So these are some best practices and some things to keep in mind while we're setting these OKRs as well. So how I explained, just to summarize, that these are objectives is the what I want to achieve, and then key results helps us in the direction. It helps us in the measure that we are in the right direction to achieve that our objective. So key results are those indicators which are measurable. We can go back in the end and say, did I achieve it or not achieve it? Like we can be so specific about it instead of having a long answer to it, right? So that's how OKR is one of the approach for goal setting, as well as for helping us as an organization to execute better on the ground. Because if the larger objective is aligned and cleared with everybody, then everybody knows what to do towards it, right? So that is one of the examples and the framework Satwa has been using internally, as well as with some of our leading organizations in social sector, in setting what are the key outcomes they want to work towards. So these are some things to be kept in mind. And the last one is the governance of OKRs is also crucially equally important. There's one thing setting it, closing the book and forgetting about it, but there's another thing like we actively reviewing it, that are we achieving it in the right direction or not, right? Planning it, then doing monthly reviews with your reporting managers, then doing a progress check-in at a quarter level, and then finally doing an annual review, that how much of it has been able to achieve. And don't consider this as a promotion or bonus or performance review exercise. This is purely from your learning and development. We're only able to show that how much as an organization we have progressed, how much as a team I've been able to progress, and how much as an individual level I've been able to progress. So see it from that point of view. One interesting story I can share with you from, I think, since we are taking example of Google, where it started. So Sundar Pichai used OKRs, and it was a 3-year objective which he had set for himself, right? So in 2008, he said, I want to build the best browser in the world. That was his objective. He just kept changing the key result for 3 years, right? In the first year, he set users as a key metric he used, right? So he said, I'll reach 20 million users. He failed. He reached 10, right? He missed it. In 2009, he set his target to 50 million, that there will be 50 million users for this browser. He reached not so much at 50, he reached at 37. In the third year, he set an audacious target for himself, which was 100 million users for this browser. He launched aggressive marketing, distribution, more technology to it, and he overshot. He reached actually 111 users in that. So it's a beautiful story which I wanted to share with you all, that setting some hard goals for yourself actually pushes you to achieve it, right? So that was just one of the examples which we have seen from this, and how Google and other leading organization in tech and now in social sector is being adopted to set goals for your organizations. Yeah, and also one thing which I want to point out, that don't consider this OKR framework, which I've seen in organizations, as a substitute for culture setting. It's not a substitute for culture setting. The culture is more of a storytelling, role modeling, whereas OKR is a framework to be used. It for sure not change the culture of the organization, but will take you to the mountaintop, right? To view that how much progress we have made, right? So this is some framework which we have been actively using, and the other organizations which I wanted to share will help you to think about the objectives you want to achieve and help you to execute better on the ground as well. And I'll be happy to discuss any questions you have. I'll be happy to share some of the templates on OKRs offline with Aishwarya and Adelina here, who can pass it on to you, and can write to me and share some of the OKRs which you are thinking to review as well. I'll be happy to do that. So that is all. Any questions, anything anybody wants to share, any thoughts, in fact, like it's useful, not useful, any reflections will also be helpful here.
Thank you so much, Kanika.